Good morning and welcome back, everyone. I'm so excited to see you. So today's lesson is going to be about will. It's one of our 12 powers and it is the power for August. All right, so let's go ahead and start the same way that we always do, with either our heart, money, or just holding our hands together and saying our offertory blessing. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. Love is something if you give it away, give it away, give it away. Love is something if you give it away, you end up having more. It's just like a magic penny, hold on tight and you won't have any. Lend it, spend it, and you'll have so many, they'll roll all over the floor. Love is something if you give it away, give it away, give it away. Love is something if you give it away, you end up having more and more and more and more and more. All right, so as we think about giving, we have multiple ways we can give, and we can give of our time, talent, and treasure. Can you think of a way that you can give of your time? There's lots of ways we can give of our time. So we can give of our time by helping others, or maybe even just spending time with someone. Have you ever sat next to someone who is elderly, or maybe even a baby, and they can't do much, but they can certainly appreciate your company? All right, so let's say our gratitude. So we're going to come from an attitude of gratitude. And that is, let's say, I am grateful for the beautiful weather outside and for a swimming pool. What are you grateful for? All right, so we can be grateful for so many things. All right, so today's lesson is going to be about will, and it is one of our 12 powers, and it is the power for August. The apostle for the power of will is Matthew, and the color that represents will is silver. So the location of the body is the center of the front brain, and the nature symbol is the moon. So our ability is to choose to follow divine, understanding to be willing. And so to be willing is to choose to let spirit of divine understanding direct our lives. It is being willing to link our minds with God mind and have access to the unlimited power of spirit. True understanding of will is being willing to let our Christ presence direct our life. So often we want to follow our own desires, and sometimes we get that gut feeling that we know there's something we should do, and that's what we want to do, is we want to follow that instinct that God is sending us messages, and we know that we need to follow those things. There's only one power and one presence in this world, and that presence is good. This tells us that there is good within every situation, and willingness encourages us to seek the good even if it's not apparent. Sometimes it's hard to see the good in a situation, and so we have to actually look for it and try to figure out what could be good about this situation, because sometimes it just seems so awful. When we fight against our inner guidance, we create difficulties for ourselves. So sometimes we feel like, oh, I don't want to do that, I'm scared, or that's not really what I really wanted to do, it's going to be too much work. And when we fight against what we know we should be doing, then that's how we create those problems. Being willing also means not giving up when things get hard. It means that we are willing to choose to go to Spirit for more guidance. We must be willing to let go of how we think things should be so that our greatest good can show up. And so today we are going to read from a story in the Bible. And before we read from here, we're going to do just a little meditation. So I invite you to close your eyes, take a deep breath in, and blow it out. And we join in this presence, in this moment. We open our hearts to Spirit, to guide us. And we come with a willingness, willing to follow Spirit, willing to be guided, and willing to persevere no matter how difficult things may be. We may experience things here that seem unpleasant, or it's hard to find good, but this open, willing Spirit guides us to look for the good. And we are grateful to have Spirit guiding us. And we are grateful for the power of will. And we choose to follow Spirit as it guides us through each and every day. Amen. All right, so we are going to read from Jonah, and it's Jonah and the Great Whale. Jonah and the Great Fish. God told his prophet Jonah to go to Nineveh and warn the people there to turn away from their wickedness. But Jonah disliked the Ninevites and did not want them to hear God's message. So he went instead to Joppa. There he found a berth on a ship sailing to Tarshish. As soon as the ship put out to sea, God sent a great wind that whipped the water up into a storm, and it seemed that the ship would break apart. The sailors, terrified, threw everything they could overboard to lighten the load. The captain went below, where he found Jonah fast asleep. "Wake up and pray to your God to save us," he cried. Meanwhile, the sailors on the deck were drawing lots to discover who among them was the cause of the storm. The name drawn was Jonah. "Yes," he said, "I am the cause of the trouble. I am an Israelite, and I ran away from the Lord. Throw me over the side, and the storm will die down." At first the men hesitated and tried to row the ship toward the shore. But the waves grew higher and the winds screamed louder, and they took hold of Jonah and threw him into the sea. At once the wind dropped and the water grew calm. As Jonah swam in the sea, he was swallowed by a giant fish. For 3 days and nights he remained in its belly, praying to God and thanking the Lord for keeping him alive, until the fish vomited Jonah onto the dry land. Again the Lord told Jonah to go to Nineveh, and this time he went. He warned the people that the city would be destroyed. The king and all his subjects, knowing that they had done wrong, begged God to spare them and promised that they would mend their ways. God heard their prayers and resolved to not harm them. Jonah, however, was angry that the city was to be spared. He built himself a shelter outside the city walls, meaning to stay there until Nineveh fell. God, watching over him, made a vine grow up to shade Jonah from the sun. But the next morning God sent a worm that fed on the roots and the vine until it withered and died. The sun grew hot, and a stifling wind blew from the east, until Jonah was suffering so much he wished himself dead. "Why are you angry that the vine has withered?" God asked him. "Why do you care about a vine that you neither planted nor watered, while you resent my care for the well-being of the city of thousands of souls?" So this is a picture of where he's sitting under the vine and the grapevine that grew. And you can see it's starting to wither. And it says that as Jonah watches over Nineveh, God makes a vine to grow shade for him from the sun, but then causes it to wither and die. This is a picture of the city of Nineveh. It's a model of the wall that once surrounded Nineveh, the capital of Assyria. The wall was 8 miles long. And over here you can kind of see the ship where the sailors are throwing Jonah overboard. And this is a sperm whale, the fish that swallowed Jonah that they think may have been a sperm whale in this story. Alright, so what did God ask Jonah to do? That's right, he asked him to go to Nineveh and warn the people. And how did Jonah respond? Did he want to go? No, he didn't think that they were worth saving, right? And what happened when the storm came? That's right, they thought that their ship was going to sink, right? And so they asked Jonah, who was asleep, to go and pray to his God. Now, what did the sailors do? Do you remember? They were drawing, that's right, they were drawing names. And when they drew the names, who did they think was responsible for the storm? That's right, they thought Jonah was. And he said, yes, I am. I've been running from the Lord. And so they did what? That's right, they threw him overboard. And so then what did the Lord send to catch Jonah? That's right, a fish, and it swallowed him. And Jonah thanked God for him being alive, right? And so when he gets back on shore, he does what? That's right, he goes to Nineveh, and he goes and he tells them his message, but he still is not happy about it, right? And so he goes and he watches for the city to fall, which means he watches for them to mess up again. And so sometimes we might go and do something and it's we're only doing it because we're being told to, but our heart's not really in it. So he's still kind of fighting it right now. And so God makes a vine that grows over and covers him, and then he makes that vine wither. And what does he tell Jonah? That's right, he says, why do you care? You didn't water, you didn't plant it. You weren't responsible for the growth of that vine, right? And so while Jonah passed the message on, he didn't stay to help them or even believe in them in any way. He just really wanted to see them fail. And that's not very kind. That's not coming from the right place in our heart. And so this story really talks to us about our own will. That was Jonah's own will, that he didn't really want those people to be saved, but even though God did. And so our activity today is going to be a science activity. And so I got ice from my ice maker that is crushed. Some of it's not crushed, but if you don't have crushed ice, you can use any kind of ice cube and just hit them with a wooden spoon. And so crushing it up. And you're going to take an empty water bottle and we're going to fill it up with the ice halfway. A little bit more. Alright. So now we filled it halfway up, and then we're going to shake it. Whew. Alright. And let's watch our bottle. sit it down. Can you see the bottle? So before the water bottle was shaken, it is full, right? It's full and it's plump and, right? But then after it's all shrunk. So how are the expanding bottles like us when we listen to God and our inner wisdom? So when we listen to God, we're full, right? And we are full and we don't feel all squished and tight and constricted. But when we aren't listening to God, we feel all squished and tight and contracted, and we're ignoring what we're supposed to be doing. So do you think it's better to feel full or constricted? That's right, it's better to feel full. So that's why we really want to listen to God and to Spirit. All right, so let's go ahead and do our closing prayer. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and we are grateful. Amen.